Hello and welcome back to another episode of SuperCoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
This episode we're covering Richmond. A very, very interesting team, particularly with some certain inclusions.
Yep.
And fair inclusions. I'm sure they'll have a salary cap.
Not fair at all. How?
I hear they're going to lose their COLA, Chris.
No, the impact that the Tom Lynch trade is going to be league-wide. And I guarantee you by this time next trade period, the AFL will have introduced some new rule about where free agents can go. And it won't be like top four teams or something.
Yeah. I agree. So quickly, let's go into our socials. You can find us facebook.com/SC Insider.
He got it right.
And on Twitter, we are SC_Insider_.
Yep.
And how about the rest?
So twitch.tv, which is what some people right now are watching us on. So thank you very much, Nolan Richardson, is twitch.tv /SC_Insider, and on SoundCloud and YouTube under SuperCoach Insider.
Yes, and Spotify.
Spotify and all major podcast platforms, including iTunes.
We're everywhere now. We're like the wind.
We are. We're like the wind. We are everywhere, which is great.
So, Chris, you want to start off by telling us about this, the new champion data, released some information today regarding the kick-ins and points that will be associated by kick-ins.
We wanted to cover it on the Richmond podcast for two reasons. First of all, no one's going to probably listen to Port Adelaide's podcast.
I was wondering why.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he waiting an episode?
Why is he waiting? And second of all, obviously, it was breaking news today, so we did want to make a recording today, just a little bit on it. So Champion Data confirmed that there will be new rules, obviously intact with the AFL's new rules that they handed down. And part of the AFL's new rules is that you can now play on outside the square without having to kick the ball to yourself.
Yes.
So you don't have to kick the ball.
And the person is now further 5 metres back, so double the distance. Instead of 5 metres off the mark, they're now 10 metres off the mark.
Yeah, which means that, and there's also that protected area still.
Yes.
So what that means is that the person who's coming out from a kick-in has probably 20 metres in front of them from the goal line. Maybe
from the goal line.
The goal line.
Yeah.
And I see this as what likely is happening, and this is completely conjecture. We don't know how they're going to actually structure this into actual AFL, is that instead of standing on the goal line and then running in to take a kick out, they're likely going to be standing on the end of the box and then running in to take a kick out.
Yep.
So they're gaining immediately another 10 metres, and then they've got more space to go either left or right, which means I think that there's a high percentage chance that almost all of the kick-ins should be outside of the box.
Well, especially, not only that, it's also not just what the players are wanting to do themselves. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, if you're going to get a free stat, you want to have a free stat.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, and sorry, we didn't actually mention this. So how Champion Data are actually recording this information is that if they do play on outside the box, as long as they're outside the box, their possession counts as a disposal.
Yep, so if they handball it or kick it, no matter what, if they're outside the box, it classes as a disposal.
Handball inside the box still counts as a disposal. So any handball is a play on and a disposal. The kick is only not counted if the kick was taken inside the square.
Right.
So outside the square, though, it is considered a disposal. So the only time that it doesn't impact your SuperCoach scoring is if, for whatever reason, they take a quick option, they're in the square, and they just do you know how sometimes they just run and grab the ball, a little chip kick out to keep going? That's the only time it would not apply as a disposal.
Right.
Yeah.
You just confused me now, Chris, because I thought once they take a step outside the box, it's then if they handball kick it, it counts as a disposal. Whereas if you kick it or handball it in the box, I thought it wasn't a disposal.
So if you handball it inside the box, it's still considered a disposal. A handball...
Inside the box, outside the box?
Inside or outside, doesn't matter. A handball in general is from a kick out, is now considered a disposal regardless. Okay. So if they decide I don't know why you would ever handball inside the box in your own defensive square anyway, but if a quick option's on and they handball it out from a kick out, that's a disposal regardless of whether inside or outside the box.
Right.
The only thing that could potentially deem a non-disposal is if it is a kick out and they kick it inside the square.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, they said that, that's not
everything else is considered a disposal.
Well, I think people would be playing on. I think it's also interesting to see how teams are going to utilise this.
Yeah.
Which is probably the biggest part, because my personal fan favourite theory is that you're going to get the guys with the longest boot. Not always, but they might want to really just shake it up and go the longest disposal you can. So you might get a Witherden or someone who's got a big boot, like Luke McDonald.
Yep.
I know you like my Luke McDonald, but
I do.
If he plays on, right, starts at 10 metres, he can run about 7 metres before anybody can get to him, and then he kicks it 50 meters or 60 meters. You're on past the wing.
I like when you use McDonald. You should just use James Sicily because
Well,
he's the
Sicily.
lock of
Okay,
he's
well,
the
let's
lock of
go.
2019.
Right. Well, let's
right?
say Sicily. So flog Sicily, just kicks it nice and far. Right.
Yep.
It might not. If they get the mark or whatever, then wonderful. But then I can see teams trying to switch it back to the other side and then go bang into goal.
It's going to be interesting because
Or a stoppage, at least. To have a stoppage on the wing.
a couple of things I want to say about that. First and foremost, this literally went live. The AFL tweeted it out probably under an hour ago. And within that hour, Jack Gunston tagged James Sicily in the post.
That's good.
5 minutes later, Eric Hipwood tagged Alex Witherden in the post. So they obviously know that they are their designated kickers.
Yes.
Now, this is two options, right? So I can't imagine this from a structural point of view. I don't know why they wouldn't play on. I don't know why they would.
Unless they have the ball and they just see somebody
right. Easy
straight
option,
away.
bang.
Well, yeah,
right?
30, 40 meters, he's free. I'm just going to bang, kick
slow
it.
playing, 100% it's always going to be a long play
If it's
on.
all locked up,
Yep.
100%.
Which means that, valuable long kick takers, etc. The other thing is that defenders are now going to guaranteed to get another stat.
Yes.
So you've got people that take, for example, and we just had a question here.
I'm sure
Stonesy just said top 4 players for kick-ins last year. I can tell you that right now. So Jake Lloyd is number 1 at 151 kick-ins. Number 2 is Shannon Hearn, 129. Number 3 is Alex Witherden, 126. And number 4 is Luke Ryan on 107.
Yep, but behind Luke Ryan is Wilson on 105, both Fremantle players.
Both Freo players. So now here's the interesting thing. So last year they did record a stat if they kicked themselves. So if they played on, and a large amount of those kick-ins are played on, but they're not as many as you are. So putting it into a perspective of kick-ins per game, Lloyd 6.86, streets ahead of the next available on which is Hearn at 5. No, sorry, I lie. The next is Alex Witherden at 6, then Hearn at 5.86, and then
Ryan at 5.
Ryan, is it Ryan?
5.35.
No, Stephen May, 5.53. So May, again, an interesting character coming across to Melbourne. The previous kick taker there was Jordan. What's his name?
Which team?
Melbourne defender, Jordan something. Jordan Lewis, yes. So he was the previous person who took
I don't
the
know why I
kick-ins.
kept thinking Murdoch. I'm like, ugh, get out of my head.
So we'll see that. I also have some interesting stats here on the percentages of kick-ins, which I think is pretty important to that as well. Give me 1 sec while I pull that out. So again, yes, what this will let you know is, okay, how much of an uptick will they have based on how many kickouts they took. So Lloyd had 100, whatever it was, 151, but he actually plays on 29% of the time. Witherden plays on 41% of the time, and Shannon Hearn played on 41% of the time as well. So those guys will have a smaller uptake than a Lloyd. However, someone like Sicily, 18.75% he played on, which means that he's going to have a much larger uptake than the others.
Yeah, Luke Ryan, 3.7%.
3.7% for Luke Ryan is insane. So he's in the top 4. He only played on 3.7% of the time. That's insane. Nathan Wilson was 17%.
Heater Shaw 57. Heater Shaw did.
Heater Shaw was the highest of the entire group, 57%.
And he only averaged 90 as well, so he probably won't go up that much.
Yeah, other interesting ones: Shane Savage less than 11.26. Can't be sure of that exact stat. Jimmy Webster 16.36%. Stephen May is less than 26%.
Tom Stewart up high as well, 57%. So
yeah.
Okay, so at this point, what you're saying is then that Sicily looks awesome. Lloyd could still improve a lot. Jaden Short, I think, is an interesting one.
Jaden Short is huge value in draft. 16.6.
Huge for draft.
Yep.
So Witherden...
Here's the other thing. So he took 90 kickouts, right? Jaden Short. However, Richmond only had 160 behinds kicked against them from rounds 1 to round 22.
Right.
So that was very low. If you look at someone like a Lloyd, for example, who had 150, that's because against Sydney, a lot of behinds were scored. So that will influence it.
Yeah.
So... because Richmond, obviously, they just don't get scored against.
Well, do you think Hawthorn losing Titch will have be bombarded a little bit more in defence this year, Chris?
Which will help Sicily.
Yes.
So...
he might actually find himself into my side.
He's not. No, you're making that bet. You're making that Whitfield bet.
Which one?
Yeah, the one where you think that Whitfield's going to out-average him.
Am I doing that now? Am I locked in?
Yeah,
I don't think we've shaken on anything here, Chris.
I'm going to lock it up.
Shaken, not stirred.
And yes, so we just had JR Stiff just said Lloyd looks like an absolute lock. I agree at this point because if you take his 112 and then add maybe, 9 to 10 points per game?
But he's so expensive. I don't like expensive.
I don't care. It's still value.
I don't like expensive.
Taking it. I can't. Like, even, worst case scenario goes down 10 points per game, but he goes up 10 points per game because of the extra addition of the rule.
Did you see what Blakely actually came out saying as well regarding his role? He said, "I'll play wherever Ross wants me to play. All I can do is be fit enough, and hopefully I'll play for midfield, and possibly rebounding defender kind of."
Which basically said to me he's going to be playing midfield. Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't want to lock it in because it's like, well, Ross could change his mind at any moment, so I'll play wherever Ross wants me to play.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to be fit enough to play midfield.
I like it. Now, other thing is that I've the last thing I want to say on this before we move into Richmond.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
I'm sorry to keep usurping you. So Adelaide Crows made a funny tweet that I just couldn't stop but laugh at. This is a tweet. It said, "Forget the data. There's one way to settle this. Brodie Smith or Rory Laird to accumulate more disposals from kick-ins in 2019. Smith didn't play, but we obviously know that he can.
No, from kick-ins in 2019.
Yeah, but so Laird only had 18 in the entire year last year.
Yeah.
So Brodie Smith wasn't even playing, and he still didn't get kick-ins. So they don't even know their own team. So I said, weird flex, but okay. Considering Laird only took 18 last year and Luke Brown took 93, I think the answer is pretty obvious. But why would the social media team doesn't even know their own players and what?
Well, maybe they're trying to pump up their boy.
Yeah.
Maybe Laird will get some more kickouts. He's pretty quick. He's pretty quick.
I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, Laird doesn't take kick-ins very rarely. So he's actually the number one target from kick-ins in Adelaide, which
that hurts.
That hurts because again we see people kicking long to a wing.
Yeah,
a lot more.
They were chipping to Laird in the pocket.
Exactly right. Yeah. So that little pocket chip, that's out of the game now. Well, I that's what I can see.
Unless you're sitting there on your own, being like, "Hey, there's no one around me."
Laird could do. Seagull McGee.
Exactly. See, that's Lockie Hunter's move.
So and also, Whitfield was the number one kick in from Heath Shaw into in the GWS defence. So how much does that impact them with them not taking those cheap uncontested marks? Who knows?
I was just thinking Lockie Hunter will probably try and stand as close as he can to the fence, so they just think it's some young child spectator, with the fan gear on. It'll be a little Chris in full kit wanker.
He could.
And the next minute he pops up,
like
I got the disposal. He's like, who's this kid?
He's about 5'3".
It's Lockie Hunter.
Nah.
Yeah. Oh, should I say
the
best and fairest Lockie Hunter?
Lockie 1 star, you mean?
Lockie 1 star. Anyway, that's enough of that.
All right,
let's move on.
Fair enough. All right, I thought I'd jump on to we'll jump into Richmond, but to do that, I've got Dustin Martin the highlights to roll us over. So get into it, mate.
That must be from 2017.
Yeah, right. No, it was this year's highlights.
Oh, well, there's not many then, Chris.
No, 13 minutes worth. It's pretty good.
Jeez.
Rolling on over.
Nah, he still had a pretty good year considering the expectations were up here, but God forbid. Okay, so Richmond, they have the 6th easiest draw, also known as the 13th hardest. I don't know why they just don't go on the flip end.
It makes it easier, yep.
Well, it would make it easier. Okay, so they have 3 Thursday night games. They have 3 Friday night games. They also have Carlton to open and the Wednesday Anzac Eve. So they have a lot of early games.
I saw Carlton opener.
Talk
about a soft open, eh?
I know.
They get gifted.
Like I said, I like watching Richmond play, just not round 1.
Yeah,
because it's just a shoe-in. They're going to absolutely demolish them, I reckon. Anyway, that's just me. So it'll be good for them as far as finances go. A lot of Friday night games, a lot of Thursday night games, a lot of night games in general. I actually quite like Richmond at night time. I think it suits them better.
They're one of the best teams to get those prime time spots. I love a Friday night Richmond game.
So they have one 4-day break, obviously, with the Anzac Eve game, and 5 6-day breaks. So best part is that a lot of the games are still at the MCG and in Melbourne. You're looking at the double up, so you got Melbourne, Giants, Collingwood, Port, and Carlton. So realistically, I think the Melbourne Giants and Collingwood game will probably be a bit more 50-50. But Richmond have such a commanding. I think they'll be top of the ladder again.
There's so much ahead of in terms of the home and away season. I know that
someone else has to really.
They buckled under the pressure of Collingwood last year. We flexed. But they are home and away. They're far and away the best team in the competition.
And in the last 2 years, they've also won more premierships than Collingwood.
That's true. They've won a lot more.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, but just on the Twitch here, we got JR Stiff said, I think Robertson coming back takes a fair few kickouts, or they leave it to Big Boot Savage. We'll touch on that. We are going to go through the Saints podcast very soon.
Probably next.
However,
yeah, next.
So if you hold on the phone, we'll cover that because there's not much point in covering in this pod.
Yes, that's fair call. Okay, so they have the round 14 bye, so they share it with Adelaide, Carlton, Suns, Giants, and North.
Yep.
So for me, it's hard to say because Richmond spread the load.
They do.
They're like,
and they have role changes that impact your entire season.
It's so shared that you might as well call them Soggy Sayo Richmond. Okay, so
we're trying to keep this. Now, I'm just glad that that a lot of people out there won't know what you're talking about.
No, exactly. So I can say what I like. It's all conjecture, right?
Calm down.
Okay, but the good thing is that because they share it with Adelaide, Carlton, Suns, Giants, and North, realistically, Adelaide and the Giants are probably the only ones that actually probably want people from your sides anyway, as far as the prime movers go.
Yeah.
Off season, they picked up obviously the big man Tommy Lynch.
Yep.
Can't wait to see what he can get into. They got rid of some fringe players, including Miles, Ellis, Lloyd, and Conquer, etc. So
yeah, all of their sort of 21 to 25, maybe even later 28.
Yeah, good on them. They'll get some opportunity elsewhere. Yep. Which, if anything, just provides some.
They've
draft
got young
value.
guys that can take their roles pretty convincingly, I think.
Yeah.
So guys that have played games, but they may necessarily have had a full chance of getting in. So someone like a Jaden Short, I think. Beautiful draft
Dusty
option
just
this year.
smashed Brisbane there with a nice one in the goal
Well,
square.
you love when they. How good was that game this year?
I look over
100 and something points. It was a big beating you guys got from Richmond this year.
Nah, I don't think it was 100. I think it was like 80 odd.
You guys didn't score in the first half,
Yeah,
did you?
Yeah, we got flogged.
Something stupid.
Okay, so rookies to note, we'll go with Oleg
Markov.
Markov, 158.
Straight out of Russia.
Yeah, so apparently big raps on him. Make or break for him, basically. It's his fourth season at Richmond, and given he's still yet to cement his spot in the side, he needs a big preseason to get into the mix. Mm-hmm. So basically, they've lost some depth players like Lloyd, Conker, Ellis, and Miles. So
he'll get chances this year.
Well, yes. Well, and basically, so Batchahuli as well has been a big servant to the club, but they could look to transition Markov into this role, so he's a defender.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this year will be the last year that say Hooley's playing 22 games.
Dash off defense,
as many as he can anyway,
or on the wing. He ignored interest from rival clubs to re-sign at Richmond. So track watchers have told us he's put on some serious size. So for me, I am watching Oleg.
Yep. At 150k, 58k?
Yes.
It's the same sort of price point as, a Scrimshaw or an IQ.
I wonder if there's like a language.
Photo went up the other day on Collingwood's Instagram or Twitter or whatever of IQ just doing a bicep curls. Dude, the guy's huge. He's like scary big for an 18-year-old.
Jesus.
So you would like it. We'll tag you in it.
Well, here's my problem, Chris. I think Oleg Markov, right? I wonder if there was like a language barrier when he first got there.
What is that?
So when he gets the ball, he's like, what do I do with it? And they're like, Oleg it. Oleg it!
So here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
Well done. No, it's good. I enjoyed it. Well done. On to Jake Arts.
Yeah, so Jake Arts. Apparently...
did you literally put him in here? You can make a joke? Jake Arts?
No? Why would I?
Oh, no.
Although Jesse Hogan's a bit upset he can't have that last name. Just puffing back the darts.
More like J Darts.
J Darts. That's what we'll call him.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Anyway,
sorry, we're having a bit of fun. I think I'm sweating. It's a bit hot in here.
He's a 106k forward. They picked him up in the rookie draft. Apparently has classy footy smarts and the ability to hit the scoreboard, as well as fierce competitiveness. And we all know Richmond loves fierce and competitive players, particularly putting pressure on. He's from their VFL side. So basically, he's already a Richmond man. Played 16 games, 13 disposals, 4 tackles, and 1 goal and 1 assist per game he averaged. Yep. So I think he's probably a fair way back in the line because they have a lot of small forwards already.
Yep.
However, he did get a rookie spot, so they've kind of promoted him and given him an opportunity there. So I think we'll see with that. We'll move straight on to the premiums.
Is that all the rookies?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, they're all the ones worth noting, Chris, because they're a winning side.
So I've got to do my own research for Richmond then?
Okay, look, do you want me to tell you the people that aren't relevant that may or may not get a game in the next 2 years?
I would love that.
Well, find it out your bloody self. Right?
I love giving
the people don't want to know about the third string, third tier, fourth generation reject.
Well, they might.
well, then they can do it them bloody selves too. Okay.
Who knows? You
Anyway.
tell us in the comments. Tell us, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, wherever you listen to us.
Well,
let us know how deep you want us to go, because we
the
can go
problem
deep
is
or we can go shallow.
the problem is Richmond already have a pretty deep lineup because they were
In the
covering for injuries. Well, yeah, they were covering for injuries already.
So, yeah, I know.
Yeah, so a lot of their players have already got quite a
Yeah,
few games.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
there's
so
probably
there's-
not a lot of opportunity for young
Correct.
guys. I mean, surprised that Jack, what's his name, little guy?
Reacher.
No, that's not him. What's his name? Little guy, Jack guy, funny.
Jack Martin.
No, plays for Richmond. Played in the forward pocket, threw the ball in the air.
Higgins, yeah.
Yeah, Jack Higgins. Sorry,
I know, I was
there
just
we go.
waiting for you
I
to
don't
try
know
and
why
land.
my head's
I'm
not
waiting for you to
working
try
today.
and land your plane, mate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I was surprised how many games he managed to play in a team like Richmond, who won the mining premiership 2 years in a row. Oh, I suppose 1 year in a row.
I know, especially
Anyway.
when his heart's beating 1 million seconds a minute. Or whatever he was saying.
So good.
So good.
Well-
And what's even better is Heaney. How Heaney comes up afterwards and cracks a joke as well.
I think it's great.
So good.
I think their team.
Anyway,
atmosphere's really
Dustin Martin, 563k. He
Yep.
averaged 103.9. This is actually his lowest output since 2005.
Yep.
The best part is that he's actually never played less than 20 games. Ever. In 9 seasons. Never
Yeah,
played less
he's
than
reliable
20
for
games.
games.
So reliable.
Yep.
For me, in draft, even if you can get him in the second round in draft as a VC option for someone who plays every game.
And for someone who can bang out a 160 when you need one.
So this is one thing. Just
And plays
quickly.
they play a lot of early games too, I think, Richmond.
Yes, they do. So awesome for a VC. Quickly off topic, I was chatting to one of the guys from our league just the other day. We've gone from a 10-man league to a 12-man. And I was like, well, now it's even more important to get guys that are reliable, that aren't injured. Because, instead of having these guys that could get you 80-odd on the fringe, you're going to be getting less value for your bench players.
Yep.
And even more in an 18-man league, go for guys that are reliable, that aren't injury-prone. Because otherwise, you're just going to lose games left, right, and centre because your top 2 players are injured.
Or trade them into your team,
Yeah.
like Ben does.
No, I'd trade in value, mate.
Yeah, exactly right.
All good. Anyway, okay, so he averaged 110.9 the last 7 rounds.
Yep.
Which is amazing.
After I trade him, yep. Thanks
He
very much.
averaged 87.2 though, however, between round 5 and round 16.
Yeah, of course he did.
Which is where everyone got hurt by him.
Yep.
And
Burn man.
that's why, burn.
Here's
Everyone got
the
burnt.
thing: where's he gonna play? Is he gonna play in the midfield or is he
think
gonna
so.
play up forward?
I think he'll play midfield.
So
That's
So you
an
think
opinion.
that Tom Lynch coming in means that he plays more?
I think he'll still rest forward, but I think he will be in the guts.
Yeah.
I think after such a big year the year before, I think he was playing injured a little bit, and they didn't need him.
Look,
so
I'm interested. I don't know yet is the answer.
yeah,
I think it more has an impact on Josh Caddy negatively. So Josh Caddy was playing,
Yes.
essentially Tom Lynch's role. What happens to Josh Caddy now?
who knows?
Because he's been perennially unplaceable in terms of what's his actual role? Because there was tried in midfield, was tried up forward, and then they were like, oh, we'll play you at full forward as the marking tool, even though he's not really marking size, and it worked.
Well, having an extra tool as well could also help, like a Lambert or something, get on the outside a little bit more rather than a Caddy, because I think Caddy's a bit too bulky for that. Anyway,
It's interesting. Anyway, I still think that he spends a lot of time forward in games and rests forward for whole quarters. But I don't know how it impacts them overall, and so I want to see it.
well, I think it's his lowest return in a few seasons, so I think he can't get worse than he is now.
Yeah.
Therefore, I see value.
He's got value. I think there is value there, but he's only averaged over 110 once in his entire career,
Yeah, correct.
which was last
But
year.
I was saying that to people last year when I was like, we have 7 of the top 11 midfielders that have only been there once, and everyone's like, oh, you're crazy, you can lock them in. I was like, well, no, you can't lock
There's
them
just so much value in the top end this year. At
Yep.
5, if he was, let's say he has value and he averages 110, Zach Merritt's still 20k cheaper for probably the same average.
in. Yeah, that's fair.
I'm not.
Zorko.
I'm not exactly sold on Dustin Martin this year, and I think he will be very, very popular. So I want to see him in the JLT before I put my
I'd be
paper to pen.
I'd be going off percentage of teams.
Yeah.
If he's not in a big percentage of teams,
I still
I'd
want
be
to hear.
I'm keen for
Yeah,
him.
that's true. I think he'll be. I think he'll be in a lot of teams.
Probably.
I think he'll be in
Like
30,
20%?
40%.
Really, he was in 40 last year though, and
Yeah, but because he's cheaper this year,
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
that people will really jump on board. Be like, oh, he
so
can
you're
get
saying
back
though,
to
if
it.
he was 10% or under, you wouldn't put him in, or you would at 10%
No, I
or
would.
under?
Yeah,
me
I
too.
would definitely. Yeah,
If
I
he
think if
starts to
it's
get-
under 15%,
Yeah, if he starts to
I'm
get to
starting.
like 20%, then I think it's a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he had 11 scores under 100 the last season, so compared to only 5 the previous year. So he can definitely improve. No doubts about that. And he only had 520 plus scores instead of 1120 plus scores the year before. So,
sorry, we've got Carlito, which I think is Carl Shepard, by the way. He said, "Go deep." That's what she said.
oh jeez. Is that about the soggy comment? Or?
Now, I will say one thing that we both said last
deep
year.
leagues. Yes.
Is that we both said that, and we questioned Dustin Martin at the start of last year, saying, even though we both started him, we questioned him at the start of the year, and we said, because he won the Brownlow, he had the best year ever. He won the Brownlow, the Norm Smith, and the Premiership.
The Coaches Award. And
Coaches Award, like he won every award on the sun. How the hell is he going to improve at 119 average?
Yep.
And proof's in the pudding.
We also said, how's Titch going to improve because he gets that many disposals anyway?
That's true. So you win some, you lose some.
I think he improved his time on ground a little bit. But
we always said that he's not going to be going down. I mean, we did say he'd have to break his own record, and he did. He had to break his own disposal record.
The next one is Nankervis, who Chris seems to be on a little bit more than I do.
I am.
Average 98.2, 533k ruck. I don't know about Nank, but Chris seems to be... So I might let Chris give you a bit about this one. However, the good thing with Nank is he had 6 scores over 110, including 3 of those over 120. He improved his average by nearly 10 Supercoach points based on the year before, so he didn't actually fall the tank. So maybe his tank's improving.
Yep.
Which
he's
could
playing
help.
a lot more game time, and it's evident when he goes off. And there was games last year where he went off, and the Tigers would lose 4 goals in 10 minutes.
I think they definitely need him on ground as much as possible.
And that's the thing. So he's going to be playing more time on ground. You've got those new ruck rules. There's still natural development in him because he's only 24.
Okay, and I think the new ruck rules might help as well because he's more of a follow up and tackle Grundy type where he might actually be able to out muscle some people to try and get the ball instead of he's not the best tap ruckman.
No,
so
he's not.
If he can try and out muscle a couple of people and grab it and then get rid of it to one of their midfielders running through, it could actually help him out.
I think he spends this season studying Brodie Grundy. And I know that sounds strange, but I think they're very, very similar types of players and studying how he actually impacts games. And it's really his possessions. He needs to get a little bit more possessions.
Yep. Well, Brodie Grundy hovered around 90 for ages. So you're saying that...
Exactly. So he went 90 to 1. I don't know if Nankervis is necessarily going to be the guy that goes 120, 130. But it's not a stretch to say he can improve his game by 5 to maybe 10 points per game this year.
I think what's in his favour is that they're going to be in a winning side.
Yeah, exactly.
And at that point, I'm willing to put a ruckman in my side in for draft anyway, if you get to that point. But I think in a winning side, the ruckmen are going to score better off than not. I mean, you look at Steph Martin when they win games, he scores a lot better than when they get smashed because he just gets a lot of the ball and happy with that. Jackie Rewalt is my boy, probably one of the better decisions I made last year.
Yeah, lucky decisions, you mean?
Lucky, yeah. Well, every other decision I brought in guys
what did he get,
when they were
220? It was a
against Gold Coast, 220, I think. So 504k forward, average 92.9.
Massively inflated.
Basically inflated, but then he also got knocked out on 3 in round 10. So basically, it probably evens out.
It probably does even out.
It probably evens out. Yeah. So, but if you take that one out, Chris, the following week he didn't even take the week off. He just got knocked down on 3, plays the next week, gets a 35, and then gets a 77, 77. He pretty much wasn't right for a month.
I remember when he went off with that knockout. He's like waving away. He's like, no, I'm good. And he's like trying to stumble back to full forward. I'm like, bro, you're done.
Yeah.
get off the field, bro.
No, you can't kick me out.
No, you won't let it.
I kick you out. Yeah, good one.
It was no good.
So his true average, if you take out the 3... Let's keep that 35 in there because, he played. Yep. So his true average is 97.14. However, inflated by that 120 odd score. If you take out the average before his knockout was 91.9, and then his average after the bye, so his last 9 were 113.77. He had some big games, including the 200 against 220 versus Gold Coast.
So that.
So what's Tom Lynch and Jack Rewalt going to do against Gold Coast? Or when do they?
I don't even want to know.
When do they versus Gold Coast? That's interesting.
You know what's interesting about that is it coincided with Dustin Martin's move back into midfield. What do we always say? What do we keep saying every week? Play your best players where they're going to be most impactful. Dustin Martin is a midfielder.
Yep.
Play him in midfield. God damn it.
Yep. You know who had a bad year in the midfield?
Who?
Cochin.
Yeah, he went down.
Yeah, but I was did the team role.
He played a great... we say
season.
this all the time as well.
Yeah, good season.
Just because you have a bad Supercoach, it doesn't mean you had a bad
Correct.
actual year.
I think he had a good year, but I think he didn't impact on Supercoach terms. Lowest return since 2010.
He just wasn't required to do as much, and I think the whole team wasn't required
Probably
to do
not.
as much.
But he also matched his 120 plus scores from the year prior.
Okay.
So the worst ever, except he's still, he was bottom end. So he had a lot of low games. let's read these out, right?
I think teams started to target Cochin, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think a lot of teams did actually tag Cochin just because they know his impact. You're not going to be able to tag Martin. How do you tag Martin? When you do try and tag him, you just
tag.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, exactly. He just don't argue you, and you're done.
It's like
anyway.
the movie Tag. He's the guy that never gets tagged.
Yeah, exactly right. Whereas Cochin, he's someone that is taggable, and I think that's what affected his low scores.
So, low scores, 48, 50, 55, 60, 68.
Yeah, I'd love to know if that was true.
Yep, so we'll move on to mid-pricers next. Number one mid-pricer, if he can actually get onto the park, is Tommy Lynch, 425k forward. He averaged 78.4, but he has averaged up in the 90s a couple years prior. I think in a winning side, he's gone from like the worst side to the best side. So I think the ball's going to be in there so thick and fast that it's definitely not unforeseeable that he will actually win the the Norm Smith, the Coleman. I think the ball's going to be in there so much. Tom Lynch could absolutely go on fire. He could absolutely go bang. However, being a key forward will probably be up and down. And is his body right? Which is probably the bigger question.
I think his body's right. I think that
we had more surgery again to clear, clean out the scar tissue and whatever else, cosmetic.
Here's the thing that I'm actually leaning towards. I think that Tom Lynch will have a good year. I'm not sure it's going to be 95 to 100 good. Might be a sort of 85 to 90 good. And I think that the reason is I think the medical team at Richmond is just much better. I think that their footy department is run by actual people who know how to run footy clubs, and he'll be monitored. I mean,
slap in the face.
What happens? People get lazy. So you get I'm in the injury group, whatever rehab group at Gold Coast. Are they getting checked up on? Who knows? The footy department's run by a bunch of slouches. Like they need to be constantly monitored to make sure they're doing what they're doing. And if you're not monitored, then what happens is you just end up getting lazy, and you're like, oh yeah, she'll be right. I'll just do the bare minimum. If you're monitored, then you get motivated to keep going. And I think that that's really important for someone like Tom Lynch, who's come from arguably one of the worst cultures in the AFL to arguably one of the best cultures in the AFL.
And I think he likes to be a big game player. Like you've seen when he took that big mark and kicked, I think, a draw. He likes to be a big game player.
Yeah.
Except the big games at Gold Coast were like 15,000 people. So
yeah, I agree.
You might want to switch that up too, Chris. I think it's starting to get on.
We're just watching plenty of Richmond highlights at this point.
His season was inflated by a 180 in round 2 against Carlton as well. So when he versus Carlton, he seems to go big, and when he versus Gold Coast, he could absolutely go monster as well. So
that's true.
I think that's going to be the interesting part for that part of it. So the next one is Jaden Short, average 85.5. He's 465k defender.
I'm big on Short.
Same here, and he's definitely not short in stocks.
He's short in stature.
Stature.
Well, no, wait, not short in stature. Actually, just short.
Just short.
Yeah.
But then he's also around the Witherton price and stuff, who I'd probably rather bank on to go the next level than Short. He did average 92.5 his last 13 rounds, which is, I had him in draft at that point in time, so happy days to me.
Yep, I especially liked when he was playing Collingwood and they let him kick 2 goals from outside 50.
Oh, so good.
In a row.
In a row.
And not learned anything in 5 seconds of football.
In a row. New kick-out rules could improve his points as well, going into his 4th season. So I think he could be definitely one to watch.
Yeah, I think he's one that can average 90 to 95 this year, and so that makes him really great draft value. I'm not sure if he's standard relevant just yet. I probably want to see a little bit more. But yeah, I definitely think he's someone that can add a lot of draft value.
Yes, and speaking of draft value, my draft specials, so I pretty much put Lambert, Edwards, and Caddy all in the same category because they all provide value in winning teams.
Yep.
If they weren't in winning teams, you'd probably second question a little bit, but I think they're all going to average you over 80, which then makes them more draft relevant.
Yep.
I don't see any of them going particularly large unless Lambert gets more outside ball.
Yep.
And he gets a little bit of midfield time as well. He might actually push towards the 90. However, avoid in standard, but they all provide value in draft. I think you can't... If you had one of those guys in your side, I'd probably say Lambert first, then probably Caddy, then Edwards, because I'm not sure how Edwards will back up after that.
I just don't know Caddy's role.
So anyway,
so
Lambert would be the pick.
Caddy last
Lambert
because I just don't know yet.
Lambert's
the pick, though.
Okay,
yeah.
right. Also, draft specials, you're looking at Alex Rance.
Yep.
82.5 average. So
it's his lowest return in quite a while.
Lowest since 2010.
Yeah.
He only had 300s though, which is very unlike Rance.
It's un-Rance-like even.
It is. So he provides lots of value. At an 82 average, you'll be able to get him so much later than you normally would have been able to get him.
He was typically a first defense, someone's first D1.
Yeah, like 96
years.
average, 98 average.
Yeah, just because his reliability, yeah.
Plenty there. He can average really well. So he had 12 scores under 80. And the worst part was his last 9 rounds, he actually averaged 68.2.
It could just be because the ball's not getting down there.
Well, it's possible.
Well, I mean, he's averaging well when Richmond were playing shite, essentially. Let's be fair.
But you never know. I think he's, might be thinking about life after football. You never know. So
well, he has been. He actually got quoted last year as saying he thought about retiring after the premiership and just was like, whatever.
So, well, maybe now he'll grit down and get down to business. Let's hope.
Maybe he's realised that, you can't make, 600-700 grand a year.
Yeah, doing
whatever else you're going to be doing.
Fishing. Okay, next one is Dion Prestia, average 88.9. I say draft value because he does have the potential to go you 100. However, his last 4 years, he's only played 8 games, 14 games, 19 games, and 11 games. So that hurts. But on the potential side, so if you want to play the risk-reward factor, between round 15 and round 19, he had a 5-game average of 103.2, and then he got re-injured, I'm pretty sure. So, risk versus reward.
Classic Prestia.
I'd rather let someone else take that because chances are they're not going to have him for the whole season.
Again, especially late, you want to try and pick people. Like, if you get an 88 average midfielder on your field in draft and they get injured, you're going to like a 70 because no one's going to trade you for him. There's not enough value.
I'll tell you when I would try and actually pick up Prestia if he's training twice a week.
Yeah.
Because he came out and saying that he could only, because of his knee issues, he was training once a week and then playing the games and then that was it. So if he actually starts training a couple times a week, he could be an absolute weapon. Classic. And that would then tell me that he has more confidence in his body.
That's true.
So only if that comes out.
I like it as a draft option. I wouldn't not pick him, but it's just a risky draft option.
Yep.
You'd have to... I would pick him under 88, and I don't think others would. I think people would take him at 88.
Yeah, probably.
So,
people would pick him in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, Batcher Hooley, speaking of risky draft options, averaged 73.6. I don't know if he gets overtaken by a youth. He still has a lot of value, though. I think he still has a lot to give. He could average you 80, 88.
With Ellis gone, does he become
he was averaging like 98 the year before that. So he has a lot of value still. Lowest output since 2009. He did get injured on 10. In round 10 on 15. So his true average is more like a 78.5. I think he could average you 80, he could average 86, 88. He could average you 98. So I think there's value there. Problem is, I think he got overtaken by Short.
Oh, definitely in terms of the designated kicker stats.
Well, him and Ellis, I think, got overtaken. So
yeah. Well, Ellis is not there, so great.
No, the other one, Ellis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Corey Ellis. Yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah.
The Brendan.
Oh, okay.
The other one. Yeah, the one that was actually playing games at one point, and then got shafted.
Fair enough.
One to watch is Brendan Ellis. Yep. Can he recap the form of 2017? Probably not. But one to watch because he could be real value in draft. Definitely not worth the risk in standard for those that got burnt trying to risk that train last year. But again, like Hooley, I'd be watching him because he was out of the first team. So if he comes out really cracking down this preseason, trying to cement his spot in the side again, because now he knows nothing's guaranteed. Fair enough. He might actually come out with a bit of a firecracker up the clacker.
Definitely one to watch, but
I'd watch him for draft. I'd take a risk in draft. You have to. You have to take
definitely
risks.
Late. But I mean, bench?
Yeah, he averaged horribly, so you'd be able to pick him up late. Those are the options. I picked up a Robertson a couple of years ago and a Higgins a couple of years ago from that position.
That's
averaging you
in 70. a 10 league.
Yeah, in a 10 league, but they're averaging 70s. I got them on the bench.
I dig it.
Yeah, great value. One to watch as well, Tommy Lynch and Prestia for their bodies.
Yep, definitely.
And watch Dustin Martin for their role, and watch Short for his kick-out use.
Yep.
Players to avoid, I have anyone versing Richmond. Plain and simple, Richmond are going to be the best side.
They just dominate teams.
Yeah.
They just make it. They just put you. There's so much pressure on the ball carrier that even if you do get 25 disposals, most of them are, turnovers or poor kicks or kicks to a contest, and it's unless it's a long kick to a contest, maybe a bit of a Jack Chris. But
can you think of anyone that's not really that relevant? I mean, you have a lot of fringe players who you won't pick.
They're all draft special and draft relevant, but there's not many
people
ends.
that you would say avoid this person 100%.
And they all could break out.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Who has the best year?
Or people have been relevant.
That was me flipping a coin, by the way.
Irrelevant. All right.
Yeah. Did you like that? Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Anyway.
Do you have anything to add, Chris?
No, I like watching Richmond. I look forward to seeing them, hopefully not on top of the ladder, but I think it's inevitable.
Well, either way, we get the first look at them anyway.
We do.
Versus Carlton. So,
excellent.
Anyway, happy days. Thanks for joining us, and we'll get into St Kilda next.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.